FSB, the Federation of Small Businesses, you've been around a long time, a very influential lobby group. You know how to talk in public. You know how to lobby ministers. These are really strong words in response to this advertising campaign about to be launched, basically urging businesses not to pass on their rising costs.
There's some of the strong words. Thank you, Liam. It's jaw-dropping. The idea that you spend government money on a marketing campaign to put a sign in a shop window about this and to ask businesses to cut their prices to consumers, when, as you've already explained very, very neatly, thank you, what's driving these prices underneath is jaw-dropping. Especially given that the money that it's going to be spent out of is rising taxes coming from things like, for example, petrol, with the price rising. After you've got the actual price of petrol and then you've got fuel duty, VAT goes on the top of that. The amount spent, according to the ONS, last month in May on car fuel was a third up on what it was the previous year, which was itself double what was the year before that. So there is a huge influx of money coming to the government from rising prices themselves because it taxes proportionally on top of that. Now, rather than spend that on a marketing campaign, we think it should really be put into supporting businesses themselves.
Now hear from some small business leaders. Marc, you do own the dog restaurant and gastropub down there in Wingham in Kent. You were on the money recently. We were discussing your escalating cost base, your massively spiralling energy bill, up to 100 grand. It was previously about 35 grand. That's eating into your margins, threatening your business. Now the government's saying it's your fault. You shouldn't be passing on those cost rises.
You took the words out of my mouth. They are out of touch. They're either not listening or they don't understand. Come and see our books. Come and see the reality. There is no margin. Yes, nobody wants to be in a price-driven marketing campaign, and then anything we do, we're a quality product. We do not want to be cheap. But yeah, we do promotions, we do what we can. And in these times, we're coming up with lots of ideas to try and, tempt the customer in with a bit of better, even more value and a bit of a deal. But there isn't a margin there to slash prices. It is laughable. And I was staggered when I read it.
The Garden of England in Kent, up to Humberside, to Dan Bryan, who runs street food company Falafia in Hull. Dan, great to have you with us on the show. I think you're a first-time contributor. You are welcome. What did you think when you heard that the government's going to fund a campaign with taxation, including business taxation, telling the country, effectively, that if firms are passing on their cost pressures in prices, then that's the reason for inflation?
Well, that's trying to dupe the population into believing it's not the government's fault. The reason for inflation has been government policy these last, 12 years since the 2008 recession, coming from the Fed in America, where they've just been printing money hand over fist. This is what happens. This is how effectively socialism on a massive scale ends. It's massive amount of inflation and then it spirals. And what the government are asking us to do is essentially price controls, which they tried that in America in the 70s. I think it was under Nixon. They tried rent controls. And what happens is you just get bubbles elsewhere in the economy. And like the gentleman's just said, we have to pass on those costs, even though it's the last resort for us to do so, because there is no margin. Our profit margin goes to pay wages. If we don't pay wages, then you end up with redundancies and no staff, and in the end, no businesses.
And do you see this as a kind of blame-shifting exercise by ministers?
Absolutely. They're always looking to shift the blame onto somebody else. This is a macroeconomic problem. This is going on globally, and it's because of the way the capitalist system has been corrupted over the last... we could go back further from 1971 when America was taken off the gold standard. They started printing money then. And this is now, we're now seeing the result of this, because financial crises happen very slowly. But that's a whole other debate. You're asking about businesses being asked to take on this burden, and there simply isn't the money there in our bank accounts to do this. It is ludicrous.